Okay, good morning, students. This is Dr. Angela David for the class that I'm supposed to take on the paper Lifespan Development, right? So, in this paper, Lifespan Development, we have four blocks, right? We have four blocks and we have 12 units, right? So, each block has three units. Like the first block is growth and development, which has an introduction to growth and development, theoretical approaches to development, and factors influencing the developmental process. Block 2 has prenatal, infancy, and childhood. Okay, so three units again. In block 3, we have the focus on adolescence, that is puberty, adolescence, and the issues and challenges faced in the adolescent. And block 4, we have early adulthood, that is middle adulthood and old age. So totally we have four blocks and we have 12 units. Okay. So, and the classes that we have on today and tomorrow, same time between 12 and 1, 20 and 21. And then again, we have on 27 and 28. And the last part of it is on the third and the fourth. So, totally, we have six classes. So, in this six classes, we are expected to complete the 12 units. Okay, so let's begin with block one, right? So block one introduction, right? It is about growth and development. Okay, developmental psychology is a branch of psychology which deals with several changes like physical, cognitive, emotional, and social. And the transitions that take place in human life sheds light on the process of human growth and development across lifespan. Developmental psychologists around the world undertake researches to provide explanation to complex issues of human growth, development, and maturation. Human development is multifaceted and a comprehensive term that explains the process of physical, cognitive, emotional, and social changes in human beings as they grow. And term growth pertains to physical, structural, and physiological changes in the human body. The process of human development across lifespan follows a certain principle and is segregated into several stages. Now, each stage is associated with certain developmental hazard, whether it is physical, psychological, or environmental in nature, having an impact on development. And we have several psychologists, right, such as Sigmund Freud, Jean Piaget, Eric Erikson, and Kohlberg, who have attempted to explain the process of development in their own way, which consolidates and broadens the perspectives of development. There are various biological and social, psychosocial factors that influence the human growth and development from the time of conception till the death of an individual, which needs to be examined to gain an in depth understanding of the concept of development. The fundamental question of nature or nurture impacting development has been debated, explored, and researched on by several psychologists. However, the current understanding concludes both nurture and nature combined together affect human development. Now, in this unit, we have introduction to growth and development. That is the first unit. And then the second one, theoretical approaches to development. And the third one, third unit, factors influencing the developmental process. Now, when we look at the unit one, that is the introduction to growth and development, these are the things that we are going to learn today. One is the concept of growth, maturation, and development, principles of development, stages of human lifespan, right? A brief introduction to developmental tasks and developmental lag and developmental hazards. So these are the four basic aspects. So the main objective of this unit is to help us differentiate the concept of growth, maturation, and development, and also describe the principles of development. And lastly, identify the stages of human life with developmental tasks and hazards. Okay, so with these things, we will quickly go into understanding what are the three major goals of the developmental science. The major goals are to describe, to explain, and to optimize development. The first one is to achieve the goal of description, developmental scientists observe and characterize the function of humans of different stages and trace how it changes with age. Developmental scientists next seek to explain what they have observed, trying to achieve their second goal of explanation, and they try to understand why humans develop as they typically do and why do some individuals develop differently than others. The third goal is the optimization of human development. Developmental scientists hope to optimize development by applying what they have learned in an attempt to help people in positive directions through enhancing capacities, preventing developmental difficulties, and overcoming developmental problems. The concept of lifelong process of development that can be studied scientifically is called or is known as lifespan development. That is the paper which we are now studying about. The study of lifespan development is an interdisciplinary concept which is an ever evolving endeavor. Due to vast advancement in technology and changes in cultural attitudes, the questions that developmental scientists seek to answer, the methods they use, and the explanations they propose are not the same as they nearly 30 years back. These changes reflect the progress in understanding as new investigations build or challenge the earlier ones. Now let's look at some of the important concepts. That is the concept of growth, concept of maturation, and the concept of development. We must also distinguish between all these three. Development doesn't necessarily involve growth, but growth is simply quantitative addition or change. As we become older, the body size, height, weight, proportions of our body, and the appearance of different limbs and parts change in measurable ways. Development involves growth and other qualitative changes. Developmental changes also include changes due to maturation. Now, what is maturation? Maturation is a change which is biological in nature and which is due to our genetic endowment. The genes that we inherit contains blueprints for changes in an orderly and predetermined sequence following a sort of biological clock. Changes like falling of milk teeth, graying of the hair, a child's onset of walking, bodily changes during adolescence, and even change as we wait, think, understand are affected by our maturational readiness. Our biological system follows a predetermined timetable, preparing us for developmental changes. Maturational changes in our body or behavior are primarily due to the aging process rather than learning of other factors such as illness or injury. Maturation and our experience in the environment jointly brings about changes in the development. The term growth and development are often used interchangeably and regarded synonymous terms. In general, they refer to the changes produced by the interactions of one's genetic and environmental factors, as well as the changes produced by the interaction in the physical, mental, social, emotional, and moral aspects involving one's individuality. However, they differ in a sense and are capable of conveying different meanings as will become evident from the following attempt in the defining of these concepts. Now, change is the law of nature. Animate or inanimate objects are all subject to change. Animate objects are distinguished from inanimate objects chiefly by their potentiality to maintain the cycle of life. As far as human beings are concerned, lives begin or starts with conception in the mother's womb, and as a result of the process of fertilization of the ovum of the mother and the sperm of the father's cell, the mother's womb then becomes a site and the means for growth and development of the new life. And it is only after 9 months that the baby is able to come into the world as a newborn. It's a beautiful process, right? A miracle. The period spent in the mother's womb is termed as a prenatal period and is usually included in the computation of one's chronological age. In all animals, including human beings, the prenatal period resembles the time taken by germinating a seed to come out of the soil, which then grows and develops into a full-fledged plant or a tree. Yeah, a full being collectively termed as growth and development. The process of growth and development are thus medium and the means for bringing about change in the organism. Now, the concept of growth refers to observable physiological changes that appears in different stages of life. Like you look at the height of the person at a particular age is an example of a growth, which is quantitative and measurable. Now, traditionally, biologists have defined growth as a physical change that occurs from conception to maturity. We indeed become biologically mature and physically competent during the early part of the lifespan. Biological aging is the deterioration of the organism, including humans. That leads to inevitably their death. Biologically, then, development does involve growth in early life, stability in early and middle adulthood, and decline associated with now accumulated effects of aging in later life. And aging involves more than the biological aging. It refers to a range of physical, cognitive, psychosocial, cognitive, positive, and negative in maturation and organization. In short, development involves gains, losses, neutral changes, and continuities in the each phase of lifespan. Let's look at the concept of development. Development can be defined as a sequence of age-related that occurs as a person progresses from conception to death. It is a reasonably orderly and cumulative process that includes biological and behavioral changes that takes place as people grow older. Development involves orderly patterned and relatively enduring changes in the individual and also involves continuities, ways in which we remain the same or continue to reflect our past life. Similarly, the concept of maturation also refers to the sequence of biological changes in children, orderly that gives rise to new abilities in children. Much maturation depends on changes in the brain and the nervous system. These changes assist children to improve their thinking abilities and motor skills. A rich learning environment helps children to develop their potential. Children must mature to a certain point before they can gain some skills. For instance, the brain of a 4-month-old has not matured enough to allow the child to use words. A 4-month will only babble and coo. However, by 2 years of age, the child will be able to, coo or be able to say some word and may be able to even understand. Okay, this is an example of how cognitive development occurs from simple tasks to more tasks that are complex. Likewise, physical skills develop from general to specific moments. For example, think about the way an infant waves its arms and legs. In young infant, these moments are random. In several months, the infant will likely to be able to grab a block with their or whole hand. Okay, solve this. Okay, so with this, we complete the first lesson of the related to growth, maturation, okay, and development. Now let's look at what are the principles of development. Okay, did anybody say anything? Okay, so now let's look at what are the principles of development. Now, growth and development do not take place in a randomized manner. They tend to follow certain principles, an underlying process, right, which can be observed in all human beings. Okay, growth refers to structural and physiological change, while development refers to growth as well as those changes in behavior which results from environmental stimulation. Right? Growth refers to structural, physiological changes such as increase in size, as we spoke about it before, increase in size, height, weight, and all this stuff. And development refers to the change in the organism as a whole, right? Okay, I think we have already spoken a lot about growth and development. What is the main principle that we need to keep in mind? The first thing is development is a continuous process, right? So it is something that is continuous. There is no stop. Right from the time the fetus is formed till the time it comes out, the development continues to happen to a certain extent. Okay. So development does not stop at any time. Right from the moment of conception till the individual reaches maturity, it continues. Okay. There may be a break in the continuity of growth due to illness or starvation or malnutrition or any other environmental factors, or sometimes it can also be some abnormal conditions of a child's life. Okay. So when we look at, the principles, you will have certain aspects, right, which is listed here. The first is the conception to birth, which we term it as prenatal growth. The second is neonatal period, which is birth to 10 to 14 days. Then we have the babyhood, which is 2 weeks to 2 years. Then we have the adult childhood, 2 years to 6 years. And then we have the late childhood, 6 years to 13 years. Adolescence, again, 13, no, it goes on to 19 years, and adulthood, 18 and 19 years. Okay. So that is how it is a whole process and which is continuous. The second important aspect is it follows an orderly pattern, right? So it has certain way of sequencing, right? Which is in a orderly manner. Suddenly the child will not get up and walk one day, right? As soon as the child is born. So there is a process, right? It will first learn, to, turn very gently, to move the body, and then gradually sit, then kneel, and then stand, and so by the time the child reaches a certain age, it will be able to stand, it will be able to walk, and that's how follows a certain sequence. Okay, that's what it means when we say development follows an orderly pattern. Number three says development proceeds from general to specific responses. Okay, what it is now. It makes generalized to localized behavior. Like in studying developmental patterns among children, it was observed that general activity always precedes specific activity. The early responses of the baby are very general in nature, right? Which can be gradually replaced by specific ones. The earliest emotional response of the newborn are generally diffuse excitement, like no waving of the arm, random moments before they are able to express, certain emotions of anger, joy, and all. They wave their hands, right? So, similarly, in the stages of language development, also the child may first begin a particular word of animal, right, eatable, or maybe imitate an animal, right, like get mimic the voice of the cat or the dog, and all. Okay, so it is always proceeds from in a very general to specific manner, right. Number four, development involves change, right. So it is a progressive series of change because the human being is never static. The child, when it is born, the way the child appears, the way the child looks at you, the way they smile, no, it is such an interesting thing when you watch a child grow. So it is always changing day by day, right? The children sometimes become round face and then they have beautiful smile. Then they start laughing, kiki and all that, right? And it is a quantitative change increasing in size and structure and all that. Okay. Number five, development is the product of interaction of the heredity and the environment. What does it mean? At any stage of growth and development, a joint product of both of these two. That is hereditary, and the second thing is the environment. The two work hand in hand, right? The environment bears up upon the new organism from the beginning, and among the environmental factors like nutrition, the climatic conditions, right, in the house, the type of social organization in which individual moves and live, the roles they play, all have an impact on this development. Number six, principle of uniqueness. Yeah. So development is an individualized process. That means all children will not be same in achieving their milestone, right? So some people may be able to turn within 3 months. Some babies may will take a little more time. Special children may take longer time. So it's a very, very specific and a unique process. Every child follows their own developmental timetable that is characteristically unique to the child. So all children therefore do not reach the same point in the developmental stages. Okay. So sometimes the stimulating environment where the child can explore the environment. Okay. So the encouragement. So the different aspects, contribute to becoming the sense of uniqueness, and it is an individualized process. Number seven, the principle of interaction of maturation and learning. Another important principle of development is that occurs as a result of both maturation and learning. Maturation refers to what changes in developed organism due to unfolding, ripening of abilities, characteristics, traits, potentialities present at birth. Learning denotes the changes in behavior due to training or experiences. Maturation is the inner growth process unaffected by the training. Another factor that causes growth is learning. Learning implies exercise and experience on the part of an individual. Learning may result from practice, which in due course of time may bring about a change in the individual's behavior. Maturation and learning are closely related and they influence one another. The number eight is development is often predictable. Okay. So now developmental psychologists have observed that each development phase has certain common traits and characteristics. That's why they were able to come out with all these principles. The consequences that are possible for us to predict at any early stage, the range within which the child matures and develops. In all types of development, particularly mental development, cannot be predicted with the same degree of accuracy. It is more easily predictable for children whose mental development falls within the normal range rather than those whose mental development shows marked deviation, right? This refers to children with special needs, right? Sometimes special children like Down syndrome or maybe some other like autism, we cannot be so easily predictable, but normally which comes under the normal range of intelligence, right? When you do an intelligence test, development is often predictable. Number nine, interrelated. It is also interrelated. One dimension of development affects the other. So, though development of various dimensions, that is physical, mental, social, moral, and emotional, all aspects are intertwined and influence the development of each other directly or indirectly. Concept of development is related to the development sense of organs. When physical development is rapid, so is mental development. Just as physical development is marked by changes in body proportions or as well as increase in size, so mental development is also characterized by different rates of growth for memory, reasoning, association with other mental abilities. The next is the direction, okay, which is the exercise of control of motor development. Now, development is a way of exercise of control on muscles and limbs, which always takes place in a pattern and direction from the head to the foot, which is also known as a hypolo, uh, uh, hypolocordial. Hypolocordial. Sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing right. Hypolocordial. And from the center to periphery, which is also known as proximodistal development. Children tend to gain control over the upper parts of the body before the lower parts. Infants gradually shift from using their arms to using their legs for propelling themselves while crawling. In this proximodistal pattern, children gain control over their torso before the extremities. Thus, infants initially reach the things by twisting their entire body, but gradually they learn to extend just their arms and legs. Number 11 is orderly sequence, a pattern in a disorderly uniform pattern. Like in spite of various discrepancies in the rate of development in individuals, it is seen to take place in an orderly sequence among human beings. It is said to be orderly in disorderly growth, for instance. Everyone first crawls and then walks. Though one may start crawling in the fourth month and another may be in the fifth month. So there may be slight variations, but generally they follow the order. Number 12. Every stage of development has potential hazards, right? Which means that the development patterns that are progressing normally, there is likely there could be some, problems or the children may face some kind of hazards in certain areas of development that interferes with the normal pattern. Some of these hazards are environmental in origin, while others originate from within. Regardless of the origin, hazards can and do affect the physical, psychological, and social adjustments the child is attempting to make. When this happens, the child encounters adjustment problem and is said to be poorly adjusted to or immature. Okay. Now let's move to the stages of human lifespan, right? Which in your book, unit 1, which is 1.4. Okay. Now, any kind of developmental process proceeds through some stages, and each development stage differs from the other. Now, each stage of development has its characteristics. Psychologists have separated human lifespan into stages or periods and identified specific changes that may be expected during each stage. The transition from one stage to the next is gradual, right? It is not sudden. So human development from conception to death is generally viewed as occurring through 8 stages. Now, what are those 8 stages? So some of the major development of these 8 stages are described in your textbook. So when you're free, you can also go through it. Okay. The development from conception till first is the prenatal stage. Now, what is the prenatal stage? The prenatal stage is from conception till the birth of the baby that constitute the prenatal stage. That is approximate period of prenatal development takes place in the 9 calendar months or 10 lunar months. That is 280 days. Although babies are not born exactly after 280 days of conception, biologically it takes about 266 days from conception for a fetus to become ready for the birth process. Okay. So actual birth of a normal full-term baby may take place anytime after that. Prenatal birth is further divided into 3 phases. The first phase is the germinal period. This is the period from the conception until implantation. That is, the conception occurs when the sperm penetrates the wall of a ripened ovum, forming a zygote. In about 8 to 14 days, the zygote gets firmly attached to the wall or the mother's uterus. This is called the implantation, which brings the germinal period to end. The second phase of the prenatal development is a period of the embryo, which lasts from the beginning of the 3rd week to the end of the 8th week. During this time, all major organs are formed and the heart begins to beat. The third phase is the period of the fetus. It lasts from the 3rd prenatal month until the baby is born. The major organ system begins to function and the growth of the organism is quite rapid. So you see how beautifully, a baby is, developed in the womb of the mother, and how in a very sequential manner and in a very beautiful way, how the germinal period happens and then the implantation happens. It's truly a miracle, right? Yeah. Then we move to the infancy. What is infancy? It is the birth period from 2 years that constitute the infancy, from birth to 2 years that constitute the stages of life. During the prenatal period, the fetus faces the task of preparing itself for the birth process and to overcome the odds against normal development. Then the newborn baby has a capacity for all life-sustaining activities such as breathing, sucking, swallowing, and discharging bodily waste. The neonatal month, that is birth to 1 month, also displays certain reflexes as well as skills which helps the process of development. Okay, so this is called the infancy period of the child. The next is the early childhood. What is early childhood? Which covers the period is between 2 to 6 years of age. This is the time where the child becomes mobile, is able to widen the sphere of her activities beyond the caregiver and the family, right? Through her interaction with the wider society and the environment. The child learns the rules of appropriate social behaviors, develop mental abilities, and prepares for a formal education and schooling. Okay. The next, right? So we have early childhood, where you put in the small nursery, where the child is trained so that they can be prepared for the school and then they get enrolled in the school. The next one is middle childhood. What is the middle childhood? This is a period where the child reaches the age of schooling, growth, and more gradual and rate of physical change becomes slower until puberty. That is about 11 to 13 years, where there is again a rapid growth spurt. However, during the middle childhood years, eye, hand, and small muscle coordination continues to develop. Mental capacity of the children also shows significant improvement during the middle childhood years. The thinking becomes more logical and systematic, particularly in respect of concrete objects, events, experiences, right? And you can see how a 10-year-old can engage in simple arithmetic, or abstract thinking, the knowledge improving, logical thinking, and all these kind of things happen. That is the middle childhood. Then we come to the most important period of the child, that is the adolescence, which is a transitional period. Because from the childhood ends here, and from here there is a transition moving towards the adulthood, which is very crucial and significant for human development. It's a onset of puberty. till the attainment of adulthood. Now, puberty marks the beginning of sexual maturity and reproductive capacity of an individual. Adolescence is characterized by rapid biological and physical changes, and these changes are associated with the psychological challenges also. We will see as we keep learning about the lifespan development, we'll have a detailed understanding of what happens during puberty and what are the challenges in adulthood issues and all those kind of things. Okay. Now we move on to early adulthood. What is early adulthood? Early adulthood is where the period of adolescence comes to an end by the age of 19. Yeah. For some people, it may even go a little further. Yeah. But normally by 19, that is the teenage end, to about 35 years of age is generally viewed as an early adulthood period. This is the period where social roles, relationships are materialized. The young adult becomes fully functioning and social being, assuming the role of a married family person and developing intimate social and sexual relationship. Then we come to the middle adulthood. What is the middle adulthood? A period from the age of 35 years of age to 60 is viewed as a midlife, during which people become aware of some decline in the physiological functions, muscular strength, and performance of major organ systems, such as digestive, circulatory system deteriorate. Middle adulthood is characterized by some dramatic changes in the functioning of reproductive system and sexual activity. Such changes are called climatic. These are also some cognitive changes during adulthood. Short-term memory does not decline with age, but recall of information from long-term memory somewhat declines. Changes in intelligence are minimal and they are compensated by increase in wisdom and creativity. Midlife adults become more proficient in solving real life problems. And then we come to the end, that is the last one, old age. This is a period of life from where 60 till death is the period of old age. However, with increasing life expectancy and longer work period, there is a delay of onset of the actual feeling of the old age. Besides retirement from active work life, the old people have to cope with many other challenges such as their own declining physical fitness, ill health, death of the near and dear ones in the family, including possible loss of a spouse, loneliness. As people grow old, body metabolism also changes. There's a wear and tear of the body parts and cells. According to Erickson, those who evaluate their life positively attain a sense of integrity and do not usually have much anxiety over death. Otherwise, old people may experience a sense of despair over not having been able to contribute much to the society and the limited time that is left for them to do something. Erickson characterizes the crisis as one, he calls it as integrity versus despair. There are wide individual variations in the way old people prepare to face death, another challenge of old age. Now, let us move on to the brief introduction to developmental tasks. Let us see how much is there for us. Yeah. Mm, yes.
ఆటో బుక్ చేస్తున్నాను.
Yes.
ఇక్కడ
So,
వరకు చెప్పండి.
brief introduction to developmental tasks. Now, when we examine the sequence of
అదేదో
changes,
జూడియో అవి ఉంటాయి కదా అక్కడ.
can you please mute ma, whoever is speaking? Rachel,
ఎస్ మ్యామ్, ఎస్ మ్యామ్.
are you? Yeah. You are talking to somebody? Yeah, kindly mute. Okay, fine. Let's move on. So
Sorry,
now we
sir.
move on to the brief introduction to developmental tasks. Now, when we examine the sequence of changes over entire lifespan, we find broad patterns in phases of life, right? A baby shows patterns of behavior which are different from young adult, who in turn is different from the old person. Although we have discussed this earlier, changes are slow, unnoticeable when
Ma'am,
the
you are
baby...
telling unit 3, ma'am, now?
No, no, no. This is unit 1 only. I'm following your textbook.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay?
Page
Following your
number, ma'am?
textbook. Page number, mine will be different now because I have taken a Xerox of this. So for me, my page number is 11.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay? For you, it may
Okay, ma'am.
vary. It may vary for you. But look at unit 1, right?
Okay, ma'am.
After we finish with the concepts of growth, development, and also the stages in infancy, childhood, and all that, comes the introduction to
It's
developmental.
old age after brief introduction of development tasks.
Exactly. Very good.
Okay,
You
ma'am.
found it? Which
Yes,
page
ma'am.
are you?
Same page number, ma'am.
Which page, ma?
Page number 11 only, ma'am.
11 only, yeah? Okay,
Yes,
then
ma'am.
great. Yeah, because sometimes when you Xerox this book, no, the pages get mismatched. So I was just
Yes,
wondering
ma'am.
whether there was anything. Okay, good.
Okay, ma'am.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, so there's a brief brief introduction to the developmental task, yeah, which
Yes, ma'am.
exhibits a typical pattern across a lifespan as the child develops in various stages, right? So, as we have already learned before, no, how the child develops in infancy is different from how the child develops in early childhood. How it develops in early childhood vary in adolescence. So, each stage of life is based on the developments of the previous stage, right? Which actually prepares the child to move into the next phase of life, right? So that's how a developmental changes happens, preparing the child to move on, right? Which is also functioning the various stages from one to another, right? Like the motor skill, the brain cells, everything that moves from infancy to adult childhood. When you compare it, there are a lot of variations. Okay, the chronological age of transition from one stage of development to another, right? And then how the developmental tasks motivate individuals to do what social group expects them to do. Okay, I'm just picking up points and doing because we have a timeline. We have 12 units and we have 6 classes. So I
Yes,
don't want
ma'am.
to do everything complete. Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Then
ma'am.
we move to that. So this is very easy to understand, ma, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now we move to developmental lag and developmental hazards, right? This is also what is this lag and hazards? See, lag happens when the in certain children when they are not able to, move on along with the normal process of development, right? Sometimes
Like
you see
special
the
children, ma'am.
sorry, ma.
Like special childs, ma'am.
Yeah, sometimes special children, or sometimes even if the child is, the environment, if the parents, strict parents, and they are due to fear, they may start stammering, or if the child is neglected, they may not be able to have proper self-esteem, all this. Okay, so developmental lag can happen, due to the environment, or sometimes it can be hampered due to the health of the mother also, like as you rightly said, special children, right? So certain hazards or certain accidents or some kind of problem that the mother encounters when she's pregnant, or sometimes the child encounters, maybe she falls from some place or some tree or something happens, right? Some shock, and then suddenly she becomes numb and dumb and not able to talk. Okay, so all these are hazards, right? Lag and developmental hazard. Sorry, lag and delay. Okay, so delay, as you said, definitely in special children there will be a lot of delay, and that also will vary from individual to individuals, right? Like the way Down syndrome children or some other
Premature
special children,
babies.
yeah, the way sometimes some may have speech delay, some may have
Yes,
they
yes,
may
ma'am.
take time to talk.
My maid
Yeah.
daughter is deaf and dumb, ma'am. She can speak, but little bit she can't speak.
Okay, good. So, yeah, so you must have seen, like this. Sometimes
Yes, ma'am.
in and around, we experience some children who are not able to hear also sometimes, right?
Yes,
They may
ma'am.
develop some infections and all that. So that is what meant by lag and delay in development. The early stage of development has hazards, okay, which implies that each period of life is associated with certain developmental hazards. So that is why you see every stage, the children need to be taken care. They need to be attended to. They need to be given protection. They need to be given, a proper care, so that we just can't leave. Children cannot be neglected, so that every stage, they can be prevented by certain hazards. Okay. So with this, we came to the end of this particular chapter, and then you have uh, your progress, right? Compare your answer. What is the principles of development, right? We discussed so much at length, some 12, 13 principles we discussed, right? So you
Ma'am.
can write that. Then brief note on human stages of lifespan that you already know, which is already given very clearly,
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
And then here we have the summary of whatever we have learned today about developmental psychology, about lifespan development, and how it is important for us to understand what are the principles of developments and how development occurs, what are the patterns of development, and how growth and the difference between the growth, development, and maturation, right? The stages of development, the goals of development, concept of growth, yeah, all
Yes,
this, right? So
yes, ma'am.
we quickly come. Yeah, you also have a model question paper, Maya, right? You
Yes,
should be
ma'am.
able to write. It should not be a problem at all. Very easy. Okay. What is the terms of how do you define growth, development, and maturation? Just simply write what is defined in the book, or you can add a few own words. And the hazards in developmental also is easy. Stages in during development. Okay. And then you have the multiple choice when you are free, fill in the blanks. Right? You
Okay,
are
ma'am.
you go through all this and finish it up so that we
Okay.
can move to the next one. We still have how much time is left for us now? We still have
More
13 minutes, 15 minutes.
1 minute, till 1 p.m., ma'am. Yes.
13 minutes,
12:58
right?
minutes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
It's 12:48 in my.
Yes, ma'am. 12:48, ma'am.
Okay, so we will just begin the unit
Second
2.
unit. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, we may not be able to complete, but at least we can go. My only thing is I don't want to leave the portion incomplete, whatever it is, so that it
Okay.
won't. So at least we are able to complete. Okay. Now, what is unit 3? Unit 3 talks about theoretical approaches of development. Okay. And what do we have in theoretical approaches? The main characteristic, main people that is, which is highlighted in your textbooks are Freud, Eric
Yes,
Erikson,
ma'am.
right? Piaget and Kohlbergs. These are the
Okay.
four people's, theory,
Exactly.
different theories which they have spoken about in terms of
Yes, ma'am.
development. Okay. So that
Yes,
is
ma'am.
what will be covered. Okay. So
Okay, ma'am.
the main objective of this unit is to describe Freud's psychosexual development theory, which is very
Okay.
popular, right? Second thing is we elucidate Eric Erickson's psychosocial theory. And the third one is we explain Piaget's cognitive development theory. And number four is we describe Kohlberg's theory of model development. Okay, let's look at the intro. Anybody wants to read the introduction quickly? Anybody volunteering? Because only I'm reading. Come
Okay, ma'am. I will
participate.
read. A
Yeah.
theory can be explained as a set of ideas which are connected and meaningful, aimed at the describing the phenomena after being put to test several times on varied samples. Theories on
Yes.
development in general explain the causes, factors, milestones, and effects of development of individuals waved across various life stages. As
Mm.
development of multi-dimensionals in nature, different
Mm.
developmental, physiological, psychological,
Psychologists
psychologists attempted to understand development from different facts,
from
emotional,
various,
social,
from
physical,
different facets, right?
okay,
Which are
different facts,
emotional, social,
social,
physical, and
physical, intellectual.
intellectual. Yeah.
Therefore, an integrated understanding is gained only after examining several theories of development.
Yes. Let us move on. So the focus of development theories revolve around development issues of nature versus nurture, right? There's a difference between what is nature and what is nurture. We will discuss about it. Stability versus change and continuity versus discontinuity. A good theory seeks to have three characteristics. It should be clear and consistent. It should be testable in different situations and
Different
different
of
conditions, and it should help in prediction of behavior.
behavior.
Theories which do not fall under this category are usually not considered for examination or study. So straight away we'll go to Freud, who is the father of psychology, right? Very popular. Freud's psychosexual development theory. Now, who is Freud? Sigmund Freud is the originator of the school of psychoanalysis, which focuses on understanding a person's unconscious drives, motives, and impulses. Freud has immensely contributed to the field of psychology and is especially known for psychosexual theory of development, which is unique and novel. Freud believed that a person's childhood experiences determine his or her personality. Freud also explained that the mind is divided into three parts: the conscious, the preconscious, and the subconscious. The conscious mind consists of all the aspects of oneself is unaware of at any given point of time. The preconscious mind is one where it is aware but only to certain extent. However, it is not completely part of the conscious mind. It is somewhere between the conscious and the unconscious mind. The unconscious mind consists of a person's wants, wishes, dreams, goals, impulses, motives, etc., which guides our behavior and which the person is unaware. The structure of a person's personality, according to Freud, is divided into three components. That is the id, ego, and superego. Now, id is the biological component of the personality and is driven by the pleasure principle, right? Id is representation of instinctual drives such as hunger, sleep, sex. These are all instinctual, right? Id engages in primary process thinking by fantasizing the gratification of need. Okay, all this comes under Id. Ego is the reality-driven component of the personality and finds compromise to satisfy needs in reality. If a person is hungry, he will wait till he finds the right place and the right time to have his meal. Why? Because of the ego. Ego that is rational and is organized. Ego acts like a mediator and always tries to seek a balance between id and superego. What is superego? Superego is the moral arm of personality and leads an individual to make decision by judging the good and the bad in the situation. Superego gets formed in the childhood from the moral standards and values imparted by the parents and significant others. Superego is driven by rewards and punishment. An individual tends to feel guilty if his behavior is not in accordance with the morals. He upholds and tries to indulge more in behaviors morally accepted by society. Freud has also given the concept of defense mechanism, which people use in order to protect their ego and to cope with anxiety. These psychological mechanisms are totally unconscious. They distort reality and are adaptable if used sparingly. However, if these defenses are used extensively, they result in maladaptive behavior. Some of the important defense mechanisms are repression, that is suppressing unwanted negative thoughts, feelings permanently into the unconscious mind. Second is regression, that is stooping to earlier stages of development to deal with unpleasant feelings and situations. Example, a 40-year-old woman who cries and yells when she gets fired from a job. The third is projection, attributing wrongly the negative feelings of oneself to another person. Example, blaming other person as distrustful when person himself is struggling with trust issues. Rationalization, justifying one's negative thoughts, feeling, thereby avoiding actual reason. Example, a student who parties on a day before exam, telling herself it's okay to enjoy life rather than looking at her life's problem, or telling no to her friends instead of telling no to her friends. Reaction formation, portraying feelings, behavior opposite of one's feeling and thinking. Behaving overly polite to person in spite of having intense hatred feeling that towards that person. Denial, not accepting the negative, unpleasant feeling one is experiencing. Displacement, that is diverting negative feelings and emotions to substitute objective person who is conveniently available at the point in time. Sublimation, channelizing negative emotion, thoughts into socially acceptable manner. Example, writing poetry after a breakup, all that. Okay. Now you see there is all these psychosexual stages. Okay. Now I don't want to rush too much here. See, Freud is a very interesting personality. You must understand well. Okay. So what are the main things we need to understand about Freud? He talks about the three aspects. What are those things? One is the unconscious, right? Unconscious, right?
Preconscious.
Unconscious, that which we are not aware at all. There are certain things in us we are not aware. Completely unawareness. Then there is preconscious. Preconscious, we are aware to some extent, but not completely aware. Yeah. And the third one is conscious. Okay. So these three things are very important for Freud. The next thing is the id, ego, and superego. Now, what is id? Id is the instinctual drives, right? And the ego is which we do through rationalizing, right? The super ego is which filters us, and makes us behave in a certain manner which is acceptable socially. right? So Eid, ego, and superego, these three also are present in every personality. The Eid,
Okay,
as
ma'am.
I said, is something that is raw feelings, right? Like if
Yes.
I'm hungry, right? If my Eid is very active, I want to just eat, no matter where I am, no matter what I hunger pangs, right? I want to
Okay.
react immediately to. That is the Eid, which is, doesn't have any filter, doesn't wait. Then the
Okay.
ego is something that even though the Eid, from Eid you have the instinctual drive for hunger, the ego will say control, it will rationalize. Let us wait. Anywhere we are nearing home. Once we go home, maybe we can eat. Or let us
We will
wait.
go in right
Yeah,
place. We will get a right place. We can eat there.
exactly. Very good. So that is ego. And the super ego is again another thing that is a moral arm that gives the personality a lead to make decision. Now the super ego will say, Array, if you eat like this, how? No, so many people. If I'm alone, maybe I can eat up in the hand. But I'm now surrounded with so many people, right? And I don't have much time. So maybe I'll take a spoon, right? Maybe I will
Yes, ma'am.
very I will behave and I will do things which is socially acceptable. Okay. So these are the important things of Freud. It's very
Okay.
interesting. Okay, when you read this. The next thing what Freud talks about is the concept of defense mechanism. Now, what are defense mechanism? These are strategies or mechanism where people use to protect their ego and cope with their anxieties. Right? Now, suddenly I feel very anxious. Okay. I don't know what to do. Right? I want to cry because somebody told something hurtful to me. I'm not able. Now, because so many other, I'm not able to cry. What do I do? What do I do? I repress my feeling. No, you push it inside, right? You
Yes.
push it inside. No, any negative thought. You don't want to say it. You want to give back, but you are not. You are just repressing it. Then the next one is suppressing, more or less closer to depression. Permanently, you are pushing into the unconscious, right? And
Yes,
regression.
ma'am.
Regression is the early stage of development where you deal with unpleasant feelings and situation. Now you see, even after becoming 40-year-old, this woman, she is not able to behave like a proper adult, right? She screams like a child and all that. Then projection is what, I have a problem, right? I am not able to deal with my problem. I am projecting my problem towards others, right? So instead of accepting my problem, okay, I am not able to maybe study well, or I'm not able to do well, I project to my parents saying they are not teaching me well or they are not giving me much attention. That's why I become somewhere closer to blaming. Okay. The next one is blaming the other person, right? When you are struggling to deal with trust issues, you easier thing to do is to blame instead of looking within. Right? Then rationalization. Right? Again, I'm not able to accept something that I did. Right? So instead of very gently accepting it, I keep on rationalizing. No, I'm saying like justifying, no, my instead of saying a simple sorry, I keep justifying my action, rationalizing, all the negative behavior of mine. And then there is reaction formation, which I start thinking and feeling, overly polite, right? Instead of, my reaction will be something that, I don't want to show hatred. I'm feeling intense hatred within myself, but I don't want to show it. But I very politely, very sweetly, I try to fake and try to befriend the other person. Okay. Denial.
Yes.
Denial is nothing but I have a problem, but I don't want to accept. So I try to keep denying. Right? Somebody like especially it happens with when people have diagnosis. Suddenly somebody diagnosed with HIV or cancer, they are too shocked. They are not able to answer. So these defense mechanisms are also important. So in the beginning they'll delay. They say no, 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 I don't have. Let me go and check to other doctor. They'll take second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion, till it takes a long time for them to accept that they do have a problem. Okay, but they take that time. So that's how denial. Then displacement. Displacement is what you just displace your emotions onto somebody else, right? I'm so angry. I don't know how to deal with my anger. I beat up my child, right? Then my child gets what the child does. The child takes a stick and beats up the dog. So like that, So anger gets displayed. So you're diverting your emotion. Sublimation is what you're just channelizing, right? You are feeling very upset, feeling very low, you are broken from within. You don't know how to handle, what has happened. Somebody scolded you or said something to you, right? You don't want to, You don't want to, you're finding it difficult to, deal with it. So what you do, you channelize that emotions into writing a poetry, about relationships, about, some things that has happened to you, right? Or something about
Some will listen to songs, so peaceful
listen
songs.
to, yeah, you can
I
listen
will
to
do
songs.
same, ma'am. I will listen to songs if I
Okay,
get
very good.
angry.
Okay, so you can listen to song, or if you are very good in share shairi, write share shairi.
Yes, ma'am.
If you are good in writing some nice story, by
Yes,
putting
ma'am.
some other name, you can write a story, poetry, all that. Or you can even compose a song. You can
Yes,
compose a
ma'am.
piece, nice piece. So all that. Okay.
Diagram drawing.
Yeah. So all this will come under defense mechanism. Understand?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
next will be the psychosexual stages that we will do tomorrow.
Okay,
Okay,
ma'am.
students. So thank you very much for listening. God bless you. I really
Thank you,
appreciate you
ma'am.
for joining in. Yeah, please
Thank you,
join in
ma'am.
tomorrow as well. Yeah, I'll be glad to interact with you. Yeah, and
Thank
we
you,
will
ma'am.
continue our session. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Have a nice weekend. God bless you. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Bye, ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.